The coffee spilled across Ian Foster's only clean shirt as a tiny elbow collided with his arm, the hot liquid seeping through the fabric just as he was about to step into the interview that could change everything. His 5-year-old daughter Lucy stared up at him, her blue eyes wide with horror. "Daddy, I'm sorry." Lucy's bottom lip trembled as she clutched her stuffed rabbit tighter. Ian took a deep breath, counting silently to 5 as he'd learned in his parenting classes. "It's okay, sweetheart. Accidents happen." He glanced at his watch 15 minutes before the interview. The coffee shop was packed, and he still needed to clean up and somehow make himself presentable. "Wait here, okay? Don't move from this spot." He positioned Lucy against the wall, away from the bustling crowd. "Hold Mr. Floppy tight, I'll be right back." In the bathroom, Ian dabbed frantically at his shirt with damp paper towels. At 32, he hadn't expected to be a single father juggling parenthood, part-time work, and a teaching degree. But when Maria had walked out 18 months ago, leaving behind nothing but a note and a 3-year-old who asked for her mother every night, he'd had no choice but to step up. The stain wasn't budging. Ian sighed, buttoning his jacket to cover most of it. This interview at Westfield Elementary was his best chance at securing a stable teaching position with hours that would actually let him be there for Lucy. His current night shifts at the warehouse were killing him slowly. When he emerged from the bathroom, Lucy was exactly where he'd left her, tiny fingers clutching Mr. Floppy as she watched the baristas with fascination. "All better?" she asked hopefully. "All better," he lied, taking her hand. "Now we need to find somewhere to sit for a few minutes, so Daddy can look over his notes before his big meeting." They scanned the crowded cafe. Every table was occupied business people typing furiously on laptops, students with textbooks sprawled open, couples lost in conversation. Ian felt the familiar weight of defeat pressing on his shoulders when Lucy tugged his hand. "Look, Daddy, there's a lady sitting all alone at that big table." Ian followed her gaze to a corner table where a woman sat by herself, surrounded by papers but with 3 empty chairs. She wore a simple white blouse and had her dark hair pulled back in a neat bun. Something about her struck him a quiet intensity, perhaps, as she focused on whatever she was reading. "We shouldn't disturb her, Lucy. She looks busy." "But you said we need to sit down," Lucy reasoned with the impeccable logic of a 5-year-old. "And Daddy, you always tell me sharing is caring." Before Ian could stop her, Lucy had skipped over to the table. He hurried after her, mortified. "Excuse me, lady," Lucy announced, clutching Mr. Floppy to her chest. "My daddy spilled coffee all over himself, and he has a very important meeting to get a new job so we can buy a house with a garden for me to plant strawberries. Can we please sit with you? I promise to be very quiet." Ian wanted the floor to open and swallow him whole. "I'm so sorry," he began, ready to drag Lucy away, but to his surprise, the woman looked up with warm brown eyes and smiled. "Of course you can sit here," she said, her voice soft but clear. "I've got plenty of room." She quickly gathered some of her papers into a neat stack. "Thank you," Ian said, helping Lucy into a chair. "We won't be long, I just need a few minutes to review some notes." The woman nodded. "Take your time." She extended her hand. "I'm Olivia Reed." "Ian Foster," he replied, noticing her firm handshake, "and this chatterbox is Lucy." "I'm 5, Lucy informed Olivia solemnly, "and Mr. Floppy is 7. Olivia's smile deepened, creating small creases at the corners of her eyes. "It's a pleasure to meet you both." As Ian pulled out his interview materials, he noticed Olivia discreetly moving what looked like financial reports out of view. He caught glimpses of colored graphs and large numbers before she slipped them into a sleek leather portfolio. "So what's this important meeting about?" Olivia asked, taking a sip from her cup. "It's a teaching position at Westfield Elementary," Ian explained, surprised by his own openness. "I've been working nights at a shipping warehouse while finishing my teaching credential, but the hours." He trailed off, conscious of saying too much. "Daddy doesn't sleep much," Lucy volunteered, "and then he's grumpy in the morning." Ian felt his cheeks flush. "Thank you for that insight, Lucy." Olivia laughed, a genuine sound that made several heads turn in their direction. "Kids have a way of keeping us honest, don't they?" She leaned forward slightly. I think teaching is one of the most important professions there is. What subject? Third grade. General education, but with a focus on science and math. Daddy makes volcanoes explode in the kitchen, Lucy added proudly. And we made slime that glows in the dark. That sounds incredible, Olivia said, giving Lucy her full attention. I loved science experiments when I was your age. As Ian reviewed his notes, he couldn't help noticing how easily Olivia engaged with Lucy, asking thoughtful questions and listening intently to his daughter's elaborate explanations about her kindergarten projects. There was something refreshingly genuine about her interest. What do you do? Ian asked during a rare pause in Lucy's monologue. A flicker of something hesitation perhaps crossed Olivia's face. I work in business development, she said simply. Consulting, mostly. Ian nodded, not pressing further. Her clothes were clearly expensive. The watch on her wrist probably cost more than his monthly rent, but she wore them without ostentation. He glanced at his own watch and started gathering his things. We should go. Thank you for sharing your table. Good luck with your interview, Olivia said warmly. Then, to his surprise, she reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. If you need any references or contacts in education, I might be able to help. I serve on several educational foundation boards. Ian accepted the card, noticing only a name, phone number, and email, no title or company. That's very kind, but I wouldn't want to impose. It's not an imposition, she assured him. I believe in supporting educators. Lucy, who had been uncharacteristically quiet, suddenly piped up. Can we see you again? You're nice and pretty, and you didn't get mad when I spilled my juice a little bit on your paper. Ian hadn't even noticed the spill, and from Olivia's surprise, neither had she. Lucy, we can't just— I'd like that, Olivia interrupted, surprising them both. In fact, I'm having lunch at Parkinson's Cafe tomorrow. Maybe you two could join me to celebrate after your successful interview, she added with a confidence that boosted Ian's spirits despite himself. Before Ian could formulate a polite refusal, Lucy was nodding enthusiastically. We love lunch. And somehow, against his better judgment, Ian found himself agreeing. If the interview goes well, perhaps we could. Thank you. As they walked away, Lucy waving goodbye over her shoulder, Ian couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened. He glanced back once to see Olivia watching them, a thoughtful expression on her face as she returned to her papers. I like her, Daddy, Lucy declared. She smells like vanilla and doesn't talk to me like I'm a baby. Ian smiled, tucking Olivia's card into his pocket. She seems nice, he agreed, pushing away the unwelcome flutter in his chest. He had an interview to focus on, a daughter to provide for, and no time for distractions no matter how intriguing they might be. The interview went surprisingly well. The principal, a no-nonsense woman named Dr. Phillips, seemed impressed by Ian's teaching philosophy and his commitment to hands-on learning. By the time he picked Lucy up from the drop-in daycare center he'd found near the school, he was cautiously optimistic. Did you get the job, Daddy? Lucy asked, bouncing on her toes as they walked to the bus stop. Not yet, sweetie. They need to talk to a few more people first. But you're the best teacher ever, Lucy insisted. You should tell them that, Ian laughed, swinging their joined hands. I think that might be a biased opinion. The next day, after dropping Lucy at kindergarten, Ian checked his phone obsessively for any word from Westfield Elementary. By noon, when no call had come, his optimism began to fade. He picked Lucy up early, using one of his precious few personal days from the warehouse. Are we going to have lunch with the pretty lady? Lucy asked immediately. Ian hesitated. He hadn't actually told Olivia they would come, and showing up might seem presumptuous, but Lucy's hopeful expression decided him. We can go to the cafe and see if she's there. But if she's not, we'll just have lunch by ourselves, okay? Parkinson's Cafe was considerably more upscale than Ian had anticipated. White tablecloths, servers in crisp uniforms, and a maitre d' who looked at Ian's casual clothes with barely concealed disdain. We're meeting someone, Ian explained awkwardly. Olivia Reed. The man's demeanor changed instantly. Miss Reed's table is ready, of course. She called to say she was running a few minutes late and that her guests should be seated. Ian blinked in surprise as they were led to a prime corner table with a reserved sign. Lucy scrambled into a chair, immediately reaching for the fancy cloth napkin. "Daddy, they have real flowers on the table," she whispered loudly, pointing to the small vase of fresh roses. Ian glanced at the menu and winced at the prices. This was well beyond his budget. He was formulating an exit strategy when a familiar voice called his name. "Ian, Lucy, I'm so glad you came." Olivia approached their table, looking different from yesterday. Her hair fell in soft waves around her shoulders, and she wore a simple but elegant blue dress that complemented her olive skin. Several diners turned to watch her pass, and Ian noticed the maitre d' practically bowing as she walked by. "Sorry I'm late," she said, sliding into the chair across from Ian. "A conference call ran over." She smiled warmly at Lucy. "I love your butterfly shirt," Lucy beamed. "Daddy let me pick my own clothes today because it's a special lunch." Ian felt suddenly self-conscious in his best but worn button-down shirt. "We weren't sure if we should come," he admitted. "I don't actually have good news to share yet." "That doesn't matter," Olivia waved away his concern. "I'm just happy for the company. I eat alone too often." Something in the way she said it made Ian suspect. It was more truth than social nicety. Lunch was surprisingly relaxed. Olivia guided them through the menu, suggesting dishes Lucy might enjoy and assuring Ian that she wanted to treat them. "Please, let me do this," she said quietly when he protested. "I've had a tough week, and your daughter's stories about kindergarten adventures are exactly what I need." Ian relented, and soon they were enjoying a meal that exceeded anything he could have provided. Olivia drew him out about his teaching aspirations, listening intently as he described his vision for classroom science experiments and mathematics taught through real-world applications. "What made you want to become a teacher?" she asked, genuinely curious. Ian thought about it. "I was good at explaining things, even as a kid. My friends would always come to me for help with homework. But honestly, it was my fourth-grade teacher, Mr. Barnes, who showed me what a difference the right teacher can make. I was struggling after my dad left, acting out. Instead of punishing me, Mr. Barnes gave me responsibilities, made me feel valued." He smiled at the memory. "I want to be that person for other kids." Olivia nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Teachers changed my life too. I grew up in the foster system, bounced between homes. School was my only constant." This revelation surprised Ian. Nothing about Olivia suggested a difficult childhood. "Is that why you serve on educational boards?" A flicker of something, perhaps caution, crossed her face. "Partly. I believe education is the most powerful tool for changing lives." She turned to Lucy, who was happily drawing on the children's menu. "What do you want to be when you grow up, Lucy?" "A scientist, veterinarian, artist," Lucy answered promptly. "And I'm going to have 7 dogs and a laboratory in my backyard." Both adults laughed, and the conversation shifted to lighter topics. As they shared a dessert, a chocolate creation that made Lucy's eyes widen in delight, Ian found himself studying Olivia. There was a complexity to her that intrigued him, layers beneath her polished exterior. When his phone rang with an unknown number, Olivia encouraged him to take it. "It might be the school," she said, already entertaining Lucy with a game of tic-tac-toe on the back of the paper menu. It was indeed Dr. Phillips from Westfield Elementary, offering Ian the teaching position. When he returned to the table, unable to contain his smile, Olivia and Lucy both looked up expectantly. "I got the job," he announced, his voice thick with emotion. "Full benefits, summer program options, and a salary that means I can quit the warehouse." Lucy squealed and launched herself into his arms. Olivia's smile was radiant. "I knew you would," she said, raising her water glass in a toast. Westfield just gained an exceptional teacher. As they prepared to leave, Ian found himself reluctant to say goodbye. "Thank you for lunch and for..." He gestured vaguely, unable to articulate exactly what he was grateful for beyond her kindness. Olivia seemed to understand. "Would you two like to join me this weekend? There's a science exhibition at the Natural History Museum that might interest a budding scientist, veterinarian, artist." Lucy's enthusiastic acceptance made refusal impossible, and if Ian was honest with himself, he didn't want to refuse. They exchanged phone numbers, real ones this time, not just her business card, and parted ways with plans to meet Saturday morning. On the bus ride home, Lucy chattered excitedly about their new friend and the museum, while Ian found himself thinking about Olivia's smile and the careful way she listened when others spoke. The museum date, and Ian couldn't help thinking of it as a date, despite Lucy's presence, was surprisingly fun. Olivia arrived in jeans and a casual sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail, looking younger and more relaxed than he'd seen her before. She'd clearly done her research, guiding them to exhibits she thought Lucy would enjoy and bringing along a scavenger hunt sheet she'd created herself. "You didn't have to go to all this trouble," Ian said, as Lucy raced ahead to examine a dinosaur skeleton. Olivia shrugged, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. "I enjoy planning things, and it's been a long time since I've visited a museum just for fun." Throughout the day, Ian noticed how Olivia never checked her phone, giving Lucy her undivided attention. When a museum staff member approached her deferentially, asking if everything was to her satisfaction, Ian caught a glimpse of another side to her, the assured nod, the quiet authority in her response. "Do you come here often?" he asked later as they shared lunch in the museum cafe. "The Reed Foundation provides funding for their educational programs," she explained, then quickly changed the subject, asking about his preparations for the new teaching position. By the end of the day, Lucy had declared Olivia her best grown-up friend and extracted a promise to see her again soon. As they said goodbye near the subway entrance, Ian impulsively invited her to dinner at their apartment the following weekend. "Nothing fancy," he warned. "But I make a mean lasagna." Olivia's face lit up. "I'd love that." The week that followed was a whirlwind of preparation, both for his new job and for Olivia's visit. Ian cleaned their modest two-bedroom apartment thoroughly, acutely aware of how different it must be from wherever Olivia lived. Lucy helped in her own way, creating elaborate welcome drawings and insisting they buy fresh flowers, like at the fancy restaurant. When Olivia arrived Friday evening, she brought a bottle of wine and a children's science kit for Lucy that had his daughter squealing with excitement. She moved through their small space with easy grace, complimenting the artwork on the refrigerator and admiring the view from their fifth-floor window as if it were spectacular instead of overlooking a parking lot. "This is a lovely home," she said, and Ian could tell she meant it. Dinner was simple but delicious, and the conversation flowed naturally. Lucy dominated much of it, but after Ian put her to bed, he and Olivia talked for hours. He told her about Maria's departure, his struggle to balance work and parenting, and his dreams for Lucy's future. Olivia spoke of growing up in foster care, her determination to succeed, and her love of art and literature. What she didn't talk about was her work, deflecting questions with vague references to investments and consulting. Ian noticed but didn't press. Everyone had their boundaries. As weeks passed, Olivia became a regular presence in their lives. She joined them for movie nights and playground visits, helped Lucy with art projects, and once even attended a parent-teacher meeting when Ian was stuck in traffic. They fell into an easy rhythm, and Ian found himself thinking of her during quiet moments at work, wondering what she would think of a lesson plan or laugh at something Lucy said. It was during a rare evening alone Lucy was at a sleepover with a kindergarten friend that their relationship shifted. They'd made dinner together in Ian's small kitchen, moving around each other with the familiarity of established partners, and were sitting on his worn couch with glasses of wine. "Can I ask you something?" Ian said, studying her profile in the soft lamplight. Olivia turned to face him, tucking her legs beneath her. "Of course. Why us? You could be spending your time with anyone. I've seen how people treat you, like you're someone important, but you choose to spend Friday nights watching cartoons with a 5-year-old and her dad in a cramped apartment." Something vulnerable flickered in Olivia's expression. "Because with you and Lucy, I'm just Olivia, not my job title or bank account or whatever else people see when they look at me." She hesitated. "And because being with you makes me happy in a way I haven't been in a very long time." The honesty in her voice drew him closer. "You make us happy too." When he kissed her, it felt both surprising and inevitable, like finding the last piece of a puzzle you didn't know you were solving. Her response was immediate, her hand coming up to rest against his cheek as they explored this new dimension of their relationship. Later, curled together on the couch, Ian ran his fingers through her hair. "I should warn you that dating a single dad is complicated. Lucy comes first, always." "I wouldn't want it any other way," Olivia assured him. "Lucy is extraordinary, just like her father." The following morning, as Ian made breakfast, his phone pinged with a news alert from the local business journal. Absently, he opened it while waiting for the coffee to brew. The headline made him freeze. Reed Technologies announces revolutionary clean energy partnership. CEO Olivia Reed pledges $50 million to development. The accompanying photo showed Olivia in a tailored suit, standing at a podium surrounded by business and political leaders. The article described her as the reclusive billionaire who transformed her father's struggling technology company into a global powerhouse focused on sustainable solutions. Ian stared at the phone, pieces falling into place: the deferential treatment at restaurants, the vague descriptions of her work, the educational foundation boards that bore her name. Olivia Reed wasn't just successful, she was one of the wealthiest people in the country. When his phone rang with Olivia's number, he almost didn't answer. But the thought of her smile, the way she listened to Lucy's stories, the feeling of her hand in his, those were real, regardless of what her bank account contained. "Good morning," he answered, keeping his voice steady. "Ian," she sounded nervous. "I was wondering if I could come over this morning. There's something I need to talk to you about." "I think I know what it is," he said quietly. "I just saw the news about Reed Technologies." The silence on the other end was heavy. "I should have told you sooner," she finally said. The longer I waited, the harder it became." "Come over," he said. "We'll talk." When she arrived an hour later, she looked different, not in her clothes, which were the casual jeans and sweater he was used to seeing on weekends, but in her demeanor. There was a tension in her shoulders, a wariness in her eyes that hurt to see. "I'm sorry," she said as soon as he opened the door. "I never meant to deceive you." Ian led her to the kitchen table where he'd already set out coffee. "Why didn't you tell me?" Olivia wrapped her hands around the mug, not meeting his eyes. "At first, it was just nice to be treated normally. People change around me when they know who I am, what I'm worth. And then..." She looked up, vulnerability raw in her expression. "Then I met you and Lucy, and it mattered what you thought of me. I was afraid you'd see me differently." "Like you're doing right now," she added softly, noticing his careful distance across the table. Ian sighed, running a hand through his hair. "It's a lot to process, Olivia. You're not just successful, you're one of the richest people in the country. You run a global corporation. Your coffee mug probably costs more than my rent." A flash of hurt crossed her face. "It's from a local pottery studio, $20. She set it down carefully. "Is this about money, Ian? Because that's exactly what I was afraid of." "No," he said firmly. "It's about honesty. About building a relationship on truth. I've told you everything about me, my struggles, my failures, my dreams, but you've kept this massive part of yourself hidden." Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "You're right. I should have trusted you." She reached across the table, not quite touching him. "But everything else was real. How I feel about you, about Lucy, that's the most honest I've ever been with anyone." A small voice interrupted them. "Are you fighting?" Lucy stood in the doorway, hair tousled from sleep, clutching Mr. Floppy. Olivia quickly wiped her eyes. "No, sweetie. Just having a grown-up talk." Lucy climbed onto Ian's lap, studying Olivia with solemn eyes. "You look sad." "I made a mistake," Olivia explained gently. "I didn't tell your daddy something important, and now he's disappointed in me." Lucy considered this. "Daddy says everybody makes mistakes." "Right, Daddy, and when I make mistakes, I say sorry and try to do better." Ian met Olivia's gaze over his daughter's head, seeing the hope and fear mingled in her expression. "That's right, Lucy. Did you say sorry?" Lucy asked Olivia. "I did." Lucy nodded, satisfied. "Then Daddy should forgive you. That's how it works." The simplicity of his daughter's worldview made Ian smile despite himself. "It's a little more complicated than that, sweetheart." "Why?" Lucy challenged. "Do you still like Olivia?" "Yes," Ian admitted without hesitation. "Does she still make us pancakes shaped like animals?" "I would love to make you pancakes," Olivia said, a tentative smile forming. Lucy turned back to Ian triumphantly. See, not complicated, Ian laughed, the tension easing from his shoulders, out of the mouths of babes. He looked at Olivia, seeing beyond the billionaire to the woman who had carefully chosen a science kit Lucy would love, who remembered how he took his coffee, who kissed him like she'd been waiting her whole life to do so. "I need some time," he said honestly. "This changes things. I understand." Olivia stood, gathering her purse. "Take all the time you need." "But," Ian continued, catching her hand, "Lucy's right. The important things haven't changed." The week that followed was a strange one. Ian threw himself into preparing for the school year, trying to sort through his complicated feelings about Olivia. He did research, finding articles about her company's environmental initiatives, her quiet philanthropy, and her reputation as a fair and innovative leader. Nothing he discovered contradicted the woman he'd come to know. Lucy asked about her daily, clearly missing their best grown-up friend. By Friday, Ian had made his decision. He called Olivia and invited her to dinner again. When she arrived, she seemed more like herself than she had during their confrontation, confident but warm, elegant but approachable. She brought a simple potted plant instead of cut flowers, "So it can grow with us," she explained. Over dinner, they established new ground rules. Olivia promised complete honesty moving forward, and Ian pledged to see her for who she was, not what she owned. "I need you to understand something," he said as they cleaned up together. "I've been on my own since Lucy was born. I've struggled, yes, but I've managed. I don't need or want your money." Olivia placed a dish in the drying rack. "I respect that, but I hope someday you'll be comfortable enough with me to let me share what I have, not because you need it, but because I want to. The same way you share your home and your daughter's love with me." He considered this. "Maybe, eventually, but for now, when you're with us, you're just Olivia. No extravagant gifts, no pulling strings, no helicopter rides to school." She laughed, the tension breaking. "Does this mean I'm forgiven?" In answer, Ian pulled her close, kissing her with all the emotion he'd been holding back. "Just don't lie to me again," he murmured against her lips. "Never," she promised. As summer turned to fall, they settled into a new rhythm. Ian started his teaching position, thriving in the classroom environment. Olivia was busy with her company but made time for them several days a week, often working remotely from Ian's apartment while Lucy played nearby. They were building something real, something that had nothing to do with bank accounts or social status. It wasn't always smooth. There were awkward moments, like when Ian realized the simple dinner party at Olivia's home included the governor, or when Lucy innocently asked why Olivia's car had a driver. But they navigated these challenges together, with honesty and humor. 6 months after they'd met, Ian and Lucy moved into a modest house with the garden Lucy had dreamed of. It was Ian who found it and made the down payment with his savings, though Olivia helped with furnishings, a compromise they'd reached after long discussions about independence and partnership. On a crisp autumn evening, as Lucy planted bulbs in her new garden under Olivia's guidance, Ian watched them from the porch steps. The sight of them together, heads bent in concentration, Olivia patiently showing Lucy how to space the plantings, filled him with a contentment he hadn't thought possible after Maria left. Later, after Lucy was asleep in her new bedroom with glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling, Olivia joined Ian on the porch swing. "Happy?" she asked, leaning against his shoulder. "Incredibly," he replied, wrapping an arm around her. "You know, if someone had told me a year ago that spilling coffee on myself would lead to all this, I would have laughed in their face." Olivia smiled, threading her fingers through his. "And if someone had told me that taking the last empty seat at a stranger's table would change my life, I wouldn't have believed them either." "Are you ever going to tell me what you were working on that day?" Ian asked. "Those mysterious papers you kept hiding." "Acquisition projections," she admitted. "I was deciding whether to buy a competing technology firm, all very boring and corporate." "And did you buy the company?" Olivia's eyes twinkled. "No. I was too distracted by a certain kindergartner and her handsome father to make any sound business decisions that day." Ian laughed, pulling her closer. "Best business loss ever then." "Best gain," she corrected, reaching up to kiss him. "Definitely the best gain." A year to the day after they first met, Ian proposed in the same coffee shop, at the same corner table where Lucy had first introduced them. Olivia said yes immediately, tears streaming down her face as Lucy danced around them, scattering flower petals she'd smuggled in her backpack. They married in a simple ceremony in the backyard of their home, with Lucy as flower girl and ring bearer combined. Olivia wore a dress she'd chosen with Lucy's approval, and Ian wore a new suit that actually fit properly. The guest list was small Ian's colleagues, Olivia's closest friends, and the barista from the coffee shop who had witnessed their first meeting. As they exchanged vows under an arch of autumn flowers, Ian marveled at how perfectly their lives had intertwined. Olivia, who had everything money could buy but had been missing the warmth of family. Ian, who had struggled financially but had always been rich in love. And Lucy, who had brought them together with her unfiltered honesty and open heart. "I never expected you," Ian said in his vows, "but now I can't imagine my life without you." "You showed me what really matters," Olivia replied, her voice steady despite her tears. "You and Lucy are the home I've been searching for my whole life." 2 years later, they welcomed twins, a boy and a girl who had Lucy's curiosity and Olivia's determination. Their family grew and thrived, balanced between Ian's fulfilling career as an educator and Olivia's work transforming her company into a leader in sustainable technology. They never forgot where they started a chance encounter at a crowded coffee shop, where a struggling single father took the last empty seat at a billionaire's table, neither knowing they were about to begin the most important journey of their lives. And every year on their anniversary, they returned to that same corner table, sometimes with children in tow, sometimes just the two of them, to remember how the simplest moments can change everything when you're open to possibility and brave enough to love.